Byte streams. Byte streams handle raw binary data like images, audio, video, executables, or any file where we need exact byte level control. So they read and write 8-bit bytes without any character encoding interpretation. And definitely we can handle like our text files as well. So we can handle basically everything from byte streams. Now when we can use for images, audio, video files, PDF, zip executables, network protocols, okay, serialized objects, anything. Simple rule, if opening the file in a text editor shows something readable content, we can definitely use this one. And if it shows something gibberish, then we can use byte streams. So we have seen file input stream, which can read byte by byte, raw bytes basically. Okay, so like that, byte data is 0 to 255 because we will get int from here. The byte we just read, okay, means we have reached end of file. So we have seen this one in our first chapter. Reading into a buffer much faster because it reads many bytes in one disk operation. We have seen this one as well, okay. Reading an entire small file at once. We have on this method. This one is from Java 9. Read all bytes, okay, in our like this array. So we can only use this one for files that comfortably fit in memory. A 2 GB video file would blow up our heap, all right. Now next one, FileOutputStream writes raw bytes to a file. We have seen this one as well. Okay, so don't write this one. By default, FileOutputStream overrides the file and we can pass this argument to append our data. Okay. Now next one, copying files with byte streams. This is the classic pattern for copying any file type. It works for images, video, zips, anything. File input stream, we can read, then we can write, buffer, okay. Write only the bytes we actually read. So this will be string source and destination. This one is our custom function, okay. So we can copy that. And we can try to copy our this PNG image, okay. And we can create a new file that will be copied PNG. Okay, .png. We can do this one. Okay, we can try to copy this. Now we can just remove this one and we can paste our function here. All right, and now we can call like copy file. We can provide source something like our img.png. Okay, and then second will be copied png.png. Okay. Non-static, all right, that's fine. We can wrap inside this one. Also, we can wrap inside this one. Okay. Now we can just compile this, run this. And now if you open this one, we got the same image here. Okay, so basically we can work with any type, okay, from our byte streams. So we can like copy and then paste in buffers as well. And we just did this one. Modern alternatives, Java 9 plus. We can also have one line operation, that is FileInputStream.transfer to FileOutputStream. Now transfer to is not just shortener, it's often faster because the JVM can use operating system level optimizations like zero copy transfers that our manual loop can't. Now next one, BufferedInputStream and BufferedOutputStream. So this one is same with our like character streams. Buffering matters when code makes many small reads or writes. Without buffering, each read-write call can trigger a separate disk operation. And this BufferedInputStream reads a large chunk into an internal buffer upfront, then serves subsequent small reads from memory. So without buffering, hits disk, okay, extremely slow for large files. With buffering, reads 8 KB from disk at once and then serves bytes from memory, okay. So the first version makes one system call per byte. So that's over 1 million disk calls. The buffered version makes roughly this disk calls. Okay. So serving the rest from memory. File copy with buffered streams. This is an alternative to the manual buffer approach. In our section 4, like this one, this is our section 4, okay? Copying files. So the buffered streams handle all the batching automatically. So you can read and write byte by byte without worrying about performance. Okay. Buffered input stream, we can create one resource for this one. Like this one is also wrapped around file input stream with inbuilt buffer. Okay. And default will be 8 KB. We have seen this one. Now next one is we can also create for output stream int b, okay, not equals to -1. We can write this one, writes to internal buffer, not disk. So then buffered output stream flushes remaining buffer automatically on close. Okay. So this one, buffered output stream, collects our writes in an internal buffer and only flushes to disk when the buffer is full. Okay, 8 KB by default. But if we have some very critical data, then we can call like manually by using flush method, okay, or close. We don't need to manage any of this. The close from try with resources handles the final flush automatically. The default internal buffer is 8 KB. Okay, we can change this one. We can make this one 16 KB, say 16 KB for input stream, 16 KB for output stream. So we can change like our internal buffer size as well. Manual buffer versus buffered streams. Both approaches in section 4 and here achieve similar performance. The manual buffer gives you explicit control over chunk size. Okay, like we just did here. This one is manual buffering. Okay, because we are using here file input stream, not buffered input stream. Okay. So we will get same performance, but we will get explicit control over chunk size if we use manual buffer. Buffered streams handle it automatically, which is simpler when our code needs to do byte by byte processing anyway. Don't combine both. Around a stream you already read with a large buffer since that's redundant. Okay. Now next one, we have another wrapper around our buffered output stream that will be data output stream or data input stream around this buffered input stream. So regular byte streams deal with raw bytes, but what if we want to write an int, okay, or double, that will be 8 bytes. So we would have to manually split them into bytes, then reassemble them on read, okay. But we have some classes like data input stream, data output stream, that those can handle this. Okay. So writing Java primitives to a binary file, we can create our resources something like this. Okay. Inside this, we will be having these two resources. And now we can write int, we can write double, we can write boolean, we can write string. So instead of writing bytes, we can write some specific types. Okay. And for string, this will be 2 bytes for length, like size, then plus string bytes. Okay. But if we need to read them back, definitely we will need that. Then we must read those in the same order. Okay, like here. So order must match exactly. Data input stream has no way to know what type comes next in the file. It just reads the next n bytes and interprets them as whatever type we asked for. So if we wrote an int 4 bytes and try to read double 8 bytes, so it will read 8 bytes, grabs 4 bytes from the next value and gives us a completely wrong number. Okay, with no error. Always read in exactly the same order we wrote. How much space each type uses? For byte, 1 byte, short, 2 bytes, int, 4, so same thing. Now for UTF, 2 for length prefix plus string bytes. Okay. Okay, now let's proceed next one. Byte array input stream. Okay, byte array output stream. So these streams work with in-memory byte arrays instead of files. So why would we want that? Two common reasons. First one is testing. We want to test code that reads from a stream without creating actual files. APIs that require streams. Okay, some libraries only accept input stream as input. So if our data is already in a byte array, we can wrap this one with byte array input stream to satisfy the API. So writing to memory, we can create this resource and then we can write. Okay, we can write in array as well. Okay, now we can just process to string or as string. If you don't provide this one, that's fine. Reading from memory, that's also fine. So let's say we have this byte array and let's create this one around this data, byte array input stream. Now int b, until this one is -1, we can read, okay, byte by byte. Practical use, converting an object to bytes, useful for caching, network transfer, etc. So let's get this function, object to bytes. We will return byte array and we will like take any object basically, throws IO exception, this one. So we can create two resources and we can write object. We have this method, okay. And in return, we can return this one, okay, 2 byte array. And again, we don't have to remember all of these, right? Just remember that we have these two classes as well, and we can work with something like this, and we can find those methods instantly. Reading binary file formats. Binary files follow a specific structure. We call that format. To read them correctly, we need to know that structure. So for PNG image, that starts with a specific 8-byte signature. For zip file, that starts with PK, okay, something like that. That start with this one. So here's how we would read a simple custom binary format. File structure, 4 bytes, magic number, file identifier, 4 bytes, version, okay, then n bytes actual data, data length. So we can work with try with resources syntax. Okay, we can create definitely DataInputStream resource here, custom date, okay, custom.dat, file we can read and verify the magic number, okay, by this one, read fully magic, reads exactly 4 bytes or throws end of file exception, okay. If not, like arrays.equals magic new byte, something like this. We have this one, our custom type, okay. Then basically we can throw IO exception, not a valid myft file. And if we are reaching at this point, then definitely we can read version, then its length, and then actual data. So read fully versus read. This distinction is important. Read buffer might read fewer bytes than you asked for. It returns however many bytes are immediately available. But read fully buffer guarantees it reads exactly buffer.length bytes or throws this exception if the file doesn't have enough data. When reading a binary format where we need an exact number of bytes, always use this one. Now, common pitfalls, not checking the return value of read. This one is very important. Okay, so always capture this one. So never ignore its return value. Okay, may process garbage bytes at the end because of that, and we can take use of this one. Now, forgetting to flush, if the program crashes at this point, then input and data might still be sitting in the buffer and never return to disk. Okay, so we can manually call this one. Reading text with byte streams, wrong, ignores encoding. Okay, we can provide this one, that's fine. Now we have quick summary and we can move forward with our next chapter, which is NIO and modern input output package we can call.